Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. Amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I have here a very interesting book. It is a collection of the poems of Imam al-Shāfi'ī called the Diwan of Imam al-Shāfi'ī, rahimahullahu ta'ala. Traditionally, Arabic was a focus of many scholars of Islam. They would learn the Arabic language through Arabic poetry and actually memorize thousands upon thousands of lines of poetry so that it may increase their understanding of Arabic, so that they may better understand Quran and Hadith. Many of them also compiled poetry, such as Imam al-Shāfi'ī. Imam al-Shāfi'ī in the very beginning of his studies learned thousands of lines of poetry when he was a young man, and he also compiled many different poems. We have a collection here of the poems of Imam al-Shāfi'ī which were preserved with their authentic chains. And this is a very interesting collection because it allows us to understand Imam al-Shāfi'ī's thoughts, Imam al-Shāfi'ī's understanding of the dunya. He talks about life, love, religion, all these various aspects Imam al-Shāfi'ī talks about. So this gives us a deep insight about him as an individual. And of course, we know and love Imam al-Shāfi'ī and know him to be one of the founders of the great madhahib, the Shāfi'ī madhab. So let's take a look at this book. First, we're going to look at this original edition of the book. As you can see here, it's called Diwan of Imam al-Shāfi'ī, or Diwanul Imam al-Shāfi'ī, an anthology by the illustrious Islamic scholar Muhammad Idris bin Abdullah al-Shāfi'ī. It is translated by Sheikh Muhammad Saluji and Sheikh Akhtar Ali, who were graduates of this institution, Darul Ulum Zakariya, which is located in Johannesburg, South Africa, which also happens to be the institution from where I graduated myself. An-Nadi al-Arabi is the Department of Arabic Studies within the institute. So they were working under the auspices of the head of An-Nadi al-Arabi, Maulana Abdul Quddus, Hafidhahullah Ta'ala, who was the Sheikh of Adab, who was the Sheikh of Arabic in the institution. Now, just going to quickly go through the book here. They have different titles of Imam al-Shāfi'ī's poems. After the foreword by the principal and the two authors, or I should say the two translators, I'm just going to go directly into the book. You have, for instance, the title of the poem. This is poem number 14. Alu Muhammad is the title of the poem. And then you have all of the different lines of the poem. Thereafter, you'll have the direct translation by the translators. Now, the way the poems are organized is not according to topic. It's actually organized according to the rhyme of the poem. And this is the way that traditionally the diwans, or the collections of poetry, is done. So for instance, here we have a new chapter. It's called Qafiyatut Ta, the poems that end with the letter ta. So all of the poems that have that rhyme of the ta will be brought forward here. So it has nothing to do with the content. You'll have various contents and various poem headings, but in this chapter, everything that ends with the ta is brought. So as you can see here, al-adawat, bit-tahiyyat, mahabbat, al-adawat. So this is how the poem is rhyming. And basically that's how they have put the book together. Now, coming to this translation, which is the second edition, the revised edition, first let's take a look at the cover. It says revised second edition, the Diwan of Imam al-Shāfi'ī, translated by Akhtar Ali, Muhammad Saluji, the two translators that we discussed before, and Sayyid Ahaz bin Atif, who is the one who revised their translation. So he took their translation, among other things that we're going to discuss, and he looked over them and retranslated a lot of the works that they did. An-Nadi al-Arabi, it is the Department of Arabic Studies in Darul Ulum Zakariya in South Africa. So first, let's take a look at the book itself. Take off the dust jacket here. And the book, the actual cover of the book is the exact same as the jacket. So that's a good addition. And the cover looks pretty nice, and here in brief he mentions the mumayyazat, the different aspects, what has changed from the previous edition. One thing I dislike about the prints that are from the Indo-Pak region, meaning Pakistan, India, etc. They have this strange binding. I don't know if you can see that. It is this zipper-like material, and they'll use that and then they'll glue the book onto that. I don't exactly know why they do that. In the Arab prints, those that are printed in the Arab world, they have a different material, and it's much more sturdy. They also use cream paper. Here, as you can see, it's white paper. It's one daraja less, meaning one less in the standard. And the binding is not that great, so after use it starts to break down. And one thing that you can do to see if the book is of high quality in terms of the binding is if you open it up to a certain page and it stays there, that's a sign that the binding is really good. But here it closes automatically. So that's one gripe that I have, not with this particular book, but with all of the publications that come from the Indo-Pak region. It's much more economical, it's much more cheaper, and because of that, the quality suffers a bit. Anyway, let's take a look at the book itself. As you can see here, I wrote when I received this book as a gift from the translator himself on August 18th, 2024. And he also signed it for me. So alhamdulillah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless him and accept this work from him. Now, coming to the book itself, as you can see, it's mulawwan, it's beautifully colored with this blue. So the two colors of the book is going to be blue and black. Generally, I see red and black. So going to the forewords, you have many different forewords. Now you have the foreword of the principal that was in the original edition. And then there is a foreword written by the director of the An-Nadi al-Arabi, Mawlana Abdul Qudus Qasimi, Hafidhahullah. He's the director of An-Nadi al-Arabi, the Faculty of Arabic Studies in Darul Ulum Zakariya. So he wrote this foreword here. Then you have the original two translators, their foreword and preface. And then you have the translator of this edition, Sayyid Ahaz bin Atif, his preface. So he talks about his journey and how he went to South Africa and studied. Here he talks about what he has actually done in the book itself. So he mentions that he took two different sources in the Arabic sources for the book, and that is Dr. Mujahid Mustafa Bahjat's Diwan al-Shāfi'ī, and published by Darul Qalam, as well as Dr. Emil Badir Yaqub's Diwan Imam al-Shāfi'ī, published by Darul Kutub al-Arabi, Beirut. He took these two editions and he compared and contrasted with the original translation that was done and saw if the dabt, meaning the Arabic words, are in line with what they had in those original versions, or are they different. So if they differed, he would correct that. He says he also added 53 poems, an additional 53 poems to the original version that are authentically narrated from Imam al-Shāfi'ī. And so he came across them through various versions of the Diwan. He then confirmed the translations that he has done with Mawlana Sa'ad Qasimi, Hafidhahullah, who is the son of the director of An-Nadi al-Arabi. And anytime they had any kind of doubt regarding the Arabic or the translation, they would actually consult the director. He then mentions some of the other things that he has done. He also placed footnotes. He also has added a small amount of commentary before every poem, which allows you to understand kind of what the poem is about and the gist of the poem. So those are some of the things that the translator has done. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept it from him. He also added a brief biography of Imam al-Shāfi'ī in the very beginning of the book. So you can see here the meeting with Imam Malik, Imam Muhammad, going to Egypt, etc., and the passing of Imam al-Shāfi'ī, and then going into the book itself. So as we have mentioned before, the chapters are still arranged according to the qafiyah, meaning how the words on the poem, every line of the poem, how they end. So qafiyatul hamza, everything in this chapter will end with the hamza. So again, it's not arranged according to the topic. So because it's not arranged according to topic and it's arranged according to the last letter of every line, it becomes a little bit difficult for the student who is seeking and searching for a particular poem to utilize. So what he also has done is he added a appendix all the way at the back. So he says Appendix 1, themes of the poems. So according to themes, he actually arranged the poem. So as you can see here under A, he has abstaining from asking others. If you want that understanding, you want a poem regarding that, you can seek poem number 22, 42, 85, 95, 140, 156. So you just find which page these are on. And of course the poems are numbered. So if you were to look for poem number 22, you just flip to the front and you got poem number 22, contentment and the outcome of oppressors. So that fits in with abstaining from asking others because you're content. And so he's also arranged all of this here, which makes it really beneficial for the student. This second appendix is talking about something more intricate about the scales of the poem. So if you're interested in ilm al-arud or how a poem is constructed, then this would be beneficial for you. Now what I want to do is just share some of the poems with you, and you can see how beneficial these poems of Imam al-Shāfi'ī are. Let's take a look at this here. This is one of my favorite poems, and I'm going to mention something after it as well. Here it says, أخي لن تنال العلم إلا بستة سأنبيك عن تفصيلها ببيان ذكاء وحرص واجتهاد وبلغة وصحبة أستاذ وطول زمان. My brother, you cannot acquire knowledge unless you have 6 things, the details of which I will clearly inform you: intelligence, enthusiasm, hard work, financial capability, the company of a teacher, and a long period of time. So this is a very nice translation as well. 6 things you need if you want to be a true student of knowledge, coming from Imam al-Shāfi'ī. Now regarding this poem, the translator has mentioned that he has only added poems that are authentically ascribed to Imam al-Shāfi'ī. However, the poems that were already in the original translation, he kept those, even if they're not authentically ascribed to Imam al-Shāfi'ī. And this poem, as was mentioned by Sheikh Muhammad Awama in one of his books, Ma'alim Irshadiyya, he mentions that in reality this is attributed to other Imams, not Imam al-Shāfi'ī, such as Imam al-Juwayni. So the correct attribution would be Imam al-Juwayni. This is not Imam al-Shāfi'ī's poem. So it would have been nice if he put footnotes where the attribution is not authentic to Imam al-Shāfi'ī. However, he kept it due to the barakah of the original work. As for the additional over 50 poems that he's added, he said that those are authentically ascribed to Imam al-Shāfi'ī. He only added those that are authentically ascribed. Now let's do a comparison between the poem a poem that we can find here and what we see in the original edition. Here it says Afdalul Ulum, the greatest knowledge, and this is from the translator, Sheikh Ahaz bin Atif. He added this little this statement here. Imam al-Shāfi'ī rahimahullah once said, "When I see someone of the people of hadith, it is as if I am seeing a companion of the Messenger of Allah. May Allah reward them. They have safeguarded for us the source, and thus they have merit over us." So sometimes he'll just quote Imam al-Shāfi'ī, so you have these neat little statements there. Sometimes it is a statement summarizing the poem itself. So this is a quotation of Imam al-Shāfi'ī. Now coming to the poem. كل العلوم سوى القرآن مشغلة إلا الحديث وإلا الفقه في الدين. العلم ما كان فيه قال حدثنا وما سوى ذاك وسواس الشياطين. Now I have marked here the very same poem that was in the original version. Now what we can see here is that there is an actual difference in the Arabic. كل العلوم سوى القرآن مشغلة إلا الحديث وعلم الفقه في الدين. So in the second line you can see here إلا الحديث وإلا الفقه في الدين, and here إلا الحديث وعلم الفقه في الدين. So instead of وعلم, it should be وإلا. And so the translator looked at several authenticated editions and he put the most authentic version. So he's corrected even the Arabic itself. Another thing here is that you can see in some places the tashkil and the dabt and the i'rab, the harakas are not inside this version. So if you don't know Arabic, you won't know how to read this siwa al-Qur'ani. However, here he has put the dhabt there. Siwa al-Qur'ani. He put the kasra so that it'd be easier for us to memorize. What we would do as students is we would memorize these poems and utilize them in our speeches, and it would just help us out in general aspects of our life. So this is very beneficial that he has all of the harakas here, so it's easier for students to memorize. And let's compare the translations of the two poems. So here we're going to look at the original version. It says, the greatest knowledge. Besides the knowledge of tafsir, hadith, and fiqh, all other knowledge are mere occupations. Knowledge is wherein there is qala haddathana, a chain of narration. Besides this, everything else are just whisperings of shaitan. So here, the translation of Sheikh Ahaz bin Atif, all knowledge besides the Quran, hadith, and fiqh are mere occupations. True knowledge is wherein there is qala haddathana. Anything besides that is the whisperings of the devils. So a few points here. Here they put the Arabic, and here he does a transliteration, which is going to be better. Another aspect is, to write the mud, they'll use 2 E's, but then for hadith, they didn't add 2 E's. So it's not exactly consistent with the transliteration. Here it's going to be more consistent. So instead of tafsir, he said Quran. Because Imam al-Shāfi'ī, he says, Siwa al-Qur'ani. All knowledge except Quran is a waste of time, essentially. And here they translate it as tafsir. So it's more accurate here. So he has, as you can tell, if you just look at the two translations, he's completely revised the translation altogether. It's a new translation. Now, for the sake of barakah, he kept the names of the 2 original translators on the book, but in reality, it's a completely new rendition, a completely new translation altogether. So all of the work that is in this new edition has actually been done by Maulana Ahaz bin Atif. Out of his humility, they kept the 2 original translators' names in the front. So this is a really good book. I encourage everyone to read through it. It'll give you deep insights about this religion, coming from one of the greatest imams of the entire ummah and among the salaf. We can get good insights about just different aspects of life as well. Friendship, love, marriage, religion, contentment, gratitude, patience in difficult times, seeking knowledge. All of these different things is seen here. Now I want to share one last poem, and then we are going to stop here. And this poem is Imam al-Shāfi'ī praising Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal. It says here, Al-Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. And there's another poem as well where Imam al-Shāfi'ī is praising Imam Abu Hanifa. It says here, sometimes a student may possess qualities that earn the respect of his teacher, and sometimes greater than that, a teacher may praise such a student with words that become a means of preserving his character as a lesson for generations to come. Here you can see the humility of Imam al-Shāfi'ī. He writes 2 lines of poetry praising Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, whereas Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal is the student of Imam al-Shāfi'ī. So the teacher is actually praising the student. It says, قالوا يزورك أحمد وتزوره قلت الفضائل لا تفارق منزله إن زارني فبفضله أو زرته فلفضله فالفضل في الحالين له. Or you say la. See, the dhabt here says you should say la, you shouldn't say lahu. So that retains the Arabic meter. In translation, people said, Ahmad visits you and you visit him. I replied, virtues do not part his residence. He's so virtuous, so I go to visit him. If he visits me, then it is out of his virtue, or if I visit him, then it is because of his virtue. Thus, virtue in both situations is his. Look at the humility of Imam al-Shāfi'ī, radiyallahu anhum jami'an. So this is an excellent work. I do suggest that you guys check it out for khatibs and those people who give speeches. This is great if you can memorize them, and then you have the index in the appendix in the back telling you what are the different topics. Whatever speech you have, if you're going to be speaking about generosity, you have all of these poems of Imam al-Shāfi'ī that you can look up, memorize, and really beautify your speech with. And in general, it is something that we can use to ponder and learn about our deen, learn about the great salaf of the past and how they used to speak. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept this work, to make it a means of acceptance and forgiveness of the author and all of those who are involved in the original translation and this current translation, and all of those who are part of the faculty and staff at Darul Ulum Zakariya, as well as An-Nadi Al-Arabi. وصلى الله تبارك وتعالى على خير خلق محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.